Joe Rogan actually wanted me to be here to host this award show so that I could capture Adam Silver because Joe thinks he's an alien. And Donald Trump wanted me to be here to capture Juan Soto for the same reason. It's an alien joke. What you booed up there, dude? Shut up.
Yes, comedy was back at the ESPYs last night. Unfiltered comedy. Offended some, made a lot of people laugh. Well done, Shane Gillis. Yeah, we laughed. We laughed. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. If you haven't seen it, it's online. You can go back and watch it. You didn't have to stay up late and watch the ESPY Awards. But the monologue, the 9 minutes, I thought was pretty well crafted. And Gillis has certainly found a spot. There was also something very well done, a pre-produced bit of video about the origins of the tush-push play in the NFL. It's too long to play, but it's pretty darn funny. Pretty darn funny. So if the people at SNL are actually listening, which I doubt they are, it's one of those educational moments. Could have learned something from it. We are looking at a host of stories that are bubbling up right now. Attorney General Pam Bondi headed to Alcatraz today. Not alligator Alcatraz, headed to the actual Alcatraz Island. I guess we're looking at it for a Trump-like makeover to turn it into a detention facility, since the ICE detentions are being successful. And it appears, also we got word today that a million people have self-deported, which is great. I don't know why anybody on the left would be upset about that. 1 million people taking themselves out of the country so we don't have to. That's great news. It's not costing us a dime. And as Kristi Noem has said, Secretary Noem has said, it also gives them the opportunity to apply in the future when we figure out how we're going to fix the immigration system. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Also good news yesterday, and the president announced this via Truth Social. Coca-Cola is reportedly, according to the president, going to remove the high fructose corn syrup from its regular Coca-Cola beverage. I'm a fan of the occasional Coca-Cola, but I'm not a fan of high fructose corn syrup, and it seems to be everywhere in our food chains. I went to the grocery store yesterday, picked up a loaf of bread, and looked at the ingredients because I was looking for basically whole grain bread, and the second or third ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. And I'm thinking, I just wanted a loaf of bread. I didn't want high fructose corn syrup. So I put it down and bought something more expensive that didn't have that. But Coca-Cola changing the formula back to cane sugar would be amazing. And it also would save those of us who like the cane sugar version of Coca-Cola money, because you have to buy the ones made in Mexico now. And it's ultimately going to be healthier for you. I'm a big believer that the high fructose corn syrup is in our foods is a huge problem. It's been a big money saver for the food industry, but I don't think it's helped America's health. And pick up any product and read the label. They are listed, labels on food products list the ingredients in order of what's in there the most, what percentage of that product is in there the most. So if high fructose corn syrup is near the top, I try to avoid it at all costs. That's just me. Go pick up barbecue sauce. Pick up any barbecue sauce if you're looking for a good barbecue sauce. And you'll be stunned to see how much high fructose corn syrup dominates the ingredient list in barbecue sauces. Maybe you make your own. The other story we're keeping our eyes on, and we've talked back and forth on this, is the continuing questions about the Epstein files. And earlier we played a clip of CNN actually quizzing Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal about why the Democrats didn't talk about this when they had control, when Biden was in office. Why was this not a topic? Why was this not important? And she said they were too busy. Well, Jamie Raskin found his way to Morning Joe this morning. Jamie Raskin was also asked the same question, and there seems to be a talking point being circulated among Democrats.
State congressman could have gotten that from 21 to 25 when Democrats controlled the DOJ. Why? It was a crisis then. It's a crisis now. Why didn't Democrats call for it from 21 to 25?
So, I mean, you'd have to go back and look specifically at particular prosecutorial decisions and what was taking place in terms of the other cases. So I
want to go back a few seconds. I don't think Jamie Raskin was expecting this question. This is babble. Scarborough's asking him, so why didn't you guys do this? And Raskin is processing in his head, trying to come up with an excuse.
So, I mean, you'd have to go back and look specifically at particular prosecutorial decisions and what was taking place in terms of the other cases. So I don't know. We could try to reconstruct that record. But the point is that Donald Trump is the one who has led the crusade to say that that Epstein, who was his very close friend, and there's all kinds of pictures of them in the state.
So it all goes back to Trump with Democrats, no matter what happens. No matter what goes on. They default to, well, we were busy. We were busy from 21 to 25. Yes, we had control. And yes, it was a big story. And yes, people were wondering, how did he die? And was he killed by Hillary Clinton's stooges? But we couldn't be bothered with it because we were too busy. We're too busy with the inflation everywhere. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. But they're all on the same page. The Democrats are nothing if not all locked in step on the same page. And they are absolutely going to point this and say, we were just too busy to get to it. But Trump, now there's the real problem. Yeah, they must have been told this has traction. And we played you some of the clips earlier about how the latest polling from Quinnipiac is showing that the Republicans are not running away from Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, his approval rating is rising, and he's in much better shape today than he was last month as it relates to the issue, even with all the discussions of Epstein. The other story that's bubbling up today, after, I guess, a couple weeks now, 3 weeks or so, since the Democrat primary happened in New York City, and a socialist, he calls himself a Democrat socialist, a guy named Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, won the primary. Well, there's a whole lot of chatter about this guy, and he visited New York City. Yeah, he visited from New York City to D.C. yesterday, and now we are hearing that after a lot of foot dragging, it appears that Chuck Schumer and the minority leader, the air karate chopper, yeah, I'm talking about Hakeem Jeffries, they're going to endorse Mamdani. We don't know when, but it looks like they're going to step up and endorse Mamdani. And it's interesting because so many on the left have stood up now, especially after yesterday's visit, and said that, this guy is a charismatic, attractive, intelligent leader. Never mind the fact that he wants to defund the police, and never mind the fact that he's all in on abolishing private property, in his own words.
My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home.
Do you? Do you really? Enough to take property from other people. He has openly discussed seizing the means of production. He has openly discussed defunding the police and replacing the police with social workers. He has openly stated, and until yesterday, he's now saying he's going to shy away from the language that says the global intifada, that supports the global intifada, which basically is the elimination of all the Jews, but he can come back to that, I guess, once he's elected. This was an astounding day yesterday. And if the Democrats, I guess the Pramila Jayapals of the world have enough pull in their party that they can force Chuck Schumer and they can force Hakeem Jeffries to step up and endorse this guy. Or are they worried? Are they worried that Cuomo and his independent run are gaining traction? Donald Trump kind of gave a nod to Cuomo. Are they worried about the recent survey that showed on the Republican side, Curtis Sliwa, the guy who has the beret and was in the subways with the Angels, are they worried that he's going to actually make a dent? Because God forbid you get another Republican mayor in New York, something good could happen. The streets could get cleaned. Crime would go away. God forbid that happens. But I'm just saying this is one we're going to be watching. Why is New York important? Well, it is the financial capital of the country for now. But if you elect a Democrat socialist, and, the word Democrat is really silent in that equation. If you elect a Democrat socialist, New York is done. Stick a fork in it, turn it over. You disagree? You're welcome to weigh in. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Last Sunday, was the anniversary of the first assassination attempt on President Trump. And a lot of us marked it. Many of us were thankful. I think 77 plus million of us were thankful the president survived. But there was a really curious statement yesterday from a CBS reporter who was there in Butler, Pennsylvania, when President Trump was hit with the assassin's bullet. Scott McFarlane was on with Chuck Todd. Remember him? He used to be on TV. He's got a podcast now, Chuck Todd. And the Toddcast, as they call it. Aren't they clever? Scott McFarlane was telling Chuck Todd about the assassination on Trump and how it changed his life. And I have to tell you, this was jaw-dropping.
America. And it wasn't the shooting, Chuck. I got diagnosed with PTSD.
Hold on a second here. Get back to the beginning of your comments to Chuck Todd. Again, Scott McFarlane, CBS News correspondent who was in Butler.
For those of us there, it was such a horror because you saw an emerging America. And it wasn't the shooting, Chuck. I got diagnosed with PTSD within 48 hours. I got put on trauma leave. Not because I think of the shooting, but because you saw it in the eyes, the reaction of the people. They were coming for us. If he didn't jump up with his fist, they were going to come kill us.
I know.
So Scott McFarlane claims that he looked in the eyes of the people attending the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And if Donald Trump had not survived, that crowd, which filed silently out, tens of thousands of them quietly left, probably left it cleaner than how they found it. But they would have come for the media. I saw it in their eyes. They would have killed us. Scott, I think you need to be checked out again. I think you're still not ready for active duty. CBS might need to put you back on PTSD downtime. I'm just saying. What would Chris say at this point? These people. He would be correct. You got a thought? You're welcome to join us. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. We still have to share with you the Obamas on Michelle Obama's podcast. Are they divorcing? Is their love enduring? We'll get to the bottom of this. Barack and Big Mike together again on a podcast. It's the Chris Plante Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris.
You should have threw a boy in the mix. I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy. Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It's like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
Ooh, no, I would have felt for him.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my. Do tell it, sister. Yes, of course, Big Mike, Michelle Obama on her podcast talking about how she was so happy she didn't have a son because it would have turned out to be a Barack Obama. God forbid. There have been so many rumors. I don't watch their podcast. I don't listen to their podcast. But yesterday, or her podcast with her brother, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama together again, reunited as it were. And we have to talk about it just a little bit.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really, huh?
That's so
the
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
Michelle Obama and her brother welcome Barack, and they show us warts and all how he walks into the room. It's fascinating to me.
Now don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
It's so nice to have you both in the same room together.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
Look, let me tell you. First of all, see, I'm in Wichita, Kansas,
and nobody cares really. Honest to God, does anyone really care? Why is this a story? We really don't care. I guess they're trying to bring Barack back for some fundraising. Or Michelle's podcast needed some help. Hey, I'm going to flush this. I can't. I can't anymore. I'm done with those people. I want to try and do a quick. Do I have time for a lightning round on the phones, Michael? Or are we too close to the edge? All right, let's grab one. Bill in Illinois, probably listening on the great WLS. Bill, welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Hi, thanks. Hey, real quick, you made a comment about stick a fork in New York City if Mamdani is elected. How do you feel about Chicago with our existing mayor, Brandon Johnson? Should we stick a fork in Chicago?
Well, Chicago and most of the state of Illinois, my home state, my hometown, just makes me so sad to see the way things have gone. I think Johnson will be energized if New York elects a communist, and he'll be able to drop the radical pose to achieve the radical ends, as Van Jones said. And don't sleep on Minneapolis. They're about to try and elect a guy like that, too. I'm taking a break. It's Michael Pelkin for Chris Plante on The Chris Plante Show. It is the Chris Plante Show. Michael Pelka sitting in for my friend, the vacationing Christopher Plante. And I'll be here as long as they'll let me. We have some things to cover. I have to get to the story about the really good news that happened yesterday. And we'll get to it, but there's some very interesting phone calls coming in at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Huge good news. And it relates to something Democrats like Nancy Pelosi are always crowing about, the children. The children. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk to you, the people. Phil's in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Hello, Phil. What's on your mind?
Hey, look, Mamdani likes to rail against the police, defund the police, and he rails against private ownership. But Mamdani's own parents are very well off, and I'm sure they're invested in real estate, so they have lots of real estate. So I think the Mamdani should show the way by divesting themselves of all their money, donating it to the federal government, and moving into a government hovel efficiency apartment. And I think that Mamdani himself should do the exact same thing, you know. goose and gander kind of thing. Show us the way, Mondani. Divest your parents of all their money.
Lead by example. Divest your parents. Liberate your parents from all of their money. That would be a great idea. I would love to see that happen. Mondani, the guy that is the leading candidate currently, although we're seeing some increase in support for Curtis Sliwa, the guardian angel guy, who's still around. He's still got the dumb beret, too. But there are reports that not only is Mondani from a very wealthy family, but that in January he talked about how he had left his job and was going out to campaign, and he believed that his parents would support him if he ran out of money. Well, I'm sure the Democrats are now rushing to support him, and they are going to be over the moon supporting the communists. And it's interesting how much money this campaign will take in. And we talked about Pramila Jayapal, who's now, I think she's replacing Chuck Schumer as the Democrat who's capable of getting in front of a camera faster than anyone else. When Mondani showed up at the Capitol yesterday, Pramila Jayapal was so excited.
Hi, everyone. I am here with Zoran Mondani, who is the leading candidate for mayor in New York City. He has so many incredible firsts, but the thing I love about Zoran is what he is doing to lift up working people. And Zoran, what can people do to help your campaign?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Congresswoman Jayapal for having supported this campaign, being a part of the story that brought us to this point. And if anyone wants to join our campaign, go to zohranfornyc.com/events. You will start to see canvases that you can join. You can also donate to us so we can take on Andrew Cuomo one more time.
It's going to be an interesting race, to say the least. And I, for one, would like to see Mondani live by the principles he espouses. If you're so against the police and they offer you police protection, I hope you will eschew that and say, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. Thank you, Phil. Let's go to Mike in Middletown, New Jersey. Mike, welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm the Scott McFarlane. I'm just wondering, those people who were at the rally were screened by the Secret Service for weapons. So how are they going to harm the cowarding McFarlane after Trump's fight words? With their banners, their shirts?
Well, he was outnumbered, and he doesn't exactly look like alpha male material. If we're going to categorize it, he's not alpha male, to say the least.
Well, that's true. And the other thing is, let's be honest, who would recognize him out in public? I mean, he's not like the great Bill Plante, a top newsman of CBS. He's like a D-level newsman.
Well, he's assuming, as many in the network media class do, that everyone knows who you are. Everyone, and they do wear their little lanyard with their press credentials. So I assume that he thinks that way. And he's been around. He's covered the arrest and conviction of all the January 6th people. And he's written nothing, according to reports, about the FBI failing to investigate the people who planted the bombs at the DNC. But he's worried about Trump supporters turning on the press. Really interesting, isn't it? I do think he needs to go back into PTSD care, though. I think he needs to take some more time off.
Totally.
Just my thought.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And one more here before we get to the good news. I'm telling you, this is really good news. Jim in Centerville, Virginia. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show. What's on your mind?
Hey, great show. Yeah, if you look at all the supposed screw-ups that the Secret Service made and not protecting Trump, okay, you can't call these errors or screw-ups when you're talking about the most elite protective detail on the planet with an unlimited budget. You reach a point very quickly where, in my opinion, I think that the Secret Service was told to maybe not stand down, but slack off on some of the protective things. Look at that building there. That's the only shooter vantage point there. And the head of the Secret Service at that time said they didn't put an agent on the roof because the slope was too steep. Well, let's think about that. The shooter didn't have any problem navigating the slope. the agents who were on that roof within minutes after the shooter was killed, they didn't have a problem. They were seen standing bolt upright on the roof. And within a couple of weeks, you had Congress people aged 40 to 70 down there standing on that roof to see where the shooter was. Instead, the guys are downstairs in the room below the building eating donuts as the shooter sneaks up on the back of the roof. And your last caller said, everybody screened for weapons. Well, how'd this guy get a weapon in there? And, you know, point. They caught that same guy walking around before he was on the roof, and he looked suspicious. They took his backpack. He had a rangefinder in there. Okay, I don't know about you, but the Secret Service should be saying rangefinders are only used in golf and at the gun range. So you got to hold that guy until Trump's done and then let him go. Plus the Secret Service, they didn't pick up the radios to talk to the local law enforcement. You know, there are too many screw-ups, and these things don't happen to the most elite detail force in the world unless something else happened there.
I think
what I think happened there was they were told to stand down.
Jim, I think we're all in agreement that the Secret Service and the local law enforcement partners didn't do the job they were supposed to do. And we saw some suspensions that I'm not happy with. There was only one career member of the agency who stepped down but didn't get fired, and I would like to see more firings. I don't know if we're ever going to hear the whole story because Crooks was cremated just days after this. The whole story seems to have fallen off the radar. I'd rather know the details of that assassination attempt than I would know the details of the Epstein files. Maybe I need them both, but thank you for the call. Now, good news. Good news, good news, good news. I think it's important for us to have good news and share good news. And I'm going to go back, way back in time to 2023 when Donald Trump, former President Trump, was talking about a very important issue.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
President Trump in 2023. Now, it takes time to get things done. You know, government's like a glacier, and it doesn't move very quickly. And to get it to change direction, well, it's going to take a lot of effort. And there were some big announcements yesterday. According to the reports on the Associated Press, the biggest gender-affirming care center for, and this is their headline, trans kids in the U.S. is closing. And this is out of Los Angeles, the report out of Los Angeles. The Center for Trans Youth Health and Development at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, which is the biggest provider in the country, is closing because of the threat to cut federal funds. And I'm so excited about this. I think this is such good news. And then on the heels of that came a report out of Chicago, CBS News in Chicago.
University Medical Center is pausing hormonal care for new patients under the age of 18.
This is Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. This is gigantic.
It's the latest Chicago hospital to roll back gender-affirming care for minors after the White House threatened to cut off federal funding. Rush says it made this decision with its clinical leaders. The hospital system will continue providing mental health, behavioral health, and social services to all of its transgender patients.
Now, I'm thrilled that this is going on. I feel terrible for the children who were coerced by either the school environment or by parents who wanted to be special and say that they had a trans child. I'm one of the people who believes this is a gigantic hoax that was perpetrated upon America. And it just feels like the pendulum shifted. And that shift started after Election Day. Now, look, if you're over 18 and you want to do whatever you want to do with your body, good. But we shouldn't have to pay for it. We, the people, shouldn't have to pay for that transition. Same thing with the military. And I think the factual evidence is there to support the lack of government money that should be poured into transgender individuals in the military. If you want to change your gender or believe you can change your gender, that's good. If you're an adult, do it. But I don't want to pay for it. And you shouldn't be a member of the military because based on science, you are no longer combat capable. If you were born a man and you want to physically alter your body and claim that you're a woman, you're no longer able to fight. And you're going to face a lifetime of medical care, a lifetime of psychiatric care. And how is that fair to the rest of the members of the military who need every dollar in order to do the work that is being done by our military? I think this is gigantic wins. And we're starting to see it everywhere. It's not just Chicago and Los Angeles. You're starting to see this happen everywhere. And it's on the heels of what happened in Europe. Several months ago, we saw the Nordic countries step away from it. Then we saw England wake up and go, no, the trans stuff, that's really a bad idea. We're not doing that anymore. Again, if you're an adult, I don't care what you do. I don't care how many tattoos you have. If you want to be a one-armed person and you can convince a doctor to do it, that's on you. But I just don't think you should expect me or Michael Piercy or anybody else to pay for it. Just a simple thought. If you disagree, I would love to hear from you. 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. I got a couple of pieces of information that have been lingering throughout the show. I have to do an update on the largest piece of Mars was auctioned off yesterday. The largest piece that we have on Earth of Mars was auctioned off yesterday. And how good is AI? How good is artificial intelligence against video games from the 80s? Kind of a really surprising result of one battle between the Google Gemini artificial intelligence against the classic Atari console in a simple game like chess. How good is it? Was it a total wipeout? I'll share the details with you just around the corner. It's Michael Pelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Michael Pelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Thank you for being here. So many of you have checked in, and I appreciate it. So many. Going to try and grab a couple calls if we have them here before we get out. I got to talk about some of the stories in the leftovers pile. Not that they're unimportant. They just got pushed to the back of the line. Let's get to Jay in Bowie, Maryland. Hello, Jay. Welcome to The Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I've had this idea. I don't know if it's come up with a program ever, but for people that want to defund the police, I think we should have them sign a waiver that says that do not respond if I call, and give their phone numbers and that kind of thing, addresses. And then the people that want it can have it, and the people who don't want it don't have to have it.
That'd be very interesting to have a DNR, not do not resuscitate, but do not respond because you don't want the police. Trust me, if they're up against it, they will want the police, Jay. They will beg for the police if they get confronted by bad guys. It's all grandstanding. It's all. And speaking of thank you, Jay. That's an excellent point. Speaking of grandstanding, Spartacus just moments ago. Cory Booker has his drawers in a bunch because the Republicans are trying to push forward a nominee for the court, and the Judicial Committee is meeting, and Cory Booker is not happy that the GOP is just moving forward because they want to delay.
Why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's what we have here,
This
Mr.
is
Chairman.
wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian. This is unbelievable.
So Booker is griping. I must use the B word. Booker is griping, and Chuck Grassley just keeps going forward. We're going to call the roll.
Unbelievable. There's a way to do this. If you want to force this through, if you want to ram this through, there's a way to do it in accordance to the rules as spelled out by the parliamentarian.
Well, the Republicans are doing it, and the Democrats have gotten up and walked out. Crazy Mazie Hirono has walked out. She's done. She's toast. She's over. She wants to be first in line at the buffet today, I guess. It's always fun to watch the Democrats meltdown. Always fun. Hank Johnson will probably write a song about it, and we'll have it for you tomorrow to finish off the week. I mentioned a piece of Mars was sold at auction. It's kind of an interesting thing. I've never been, I've never found a meteorite. I never found a piece of a meteor. But there are people who hunt for such things. And a 54-pound rock, which is named NWA 16788, I guess they get license plates, was discovered in the Sahara Desert in Niger by a meteorite hunter back in November of 2023. Apparently it had been blown off the surface of Mars by an asteroid strike and traveled 140 million miles here to Earth, and it was sold by Sotheby's. They estimated the price would be $2 to $4 million for a 54-pound of Mars. It was sold for just over $5 million. And I'm looking at the rock and I'm thinking, I can't tell this. I can't tell this came from Mars, but I got to trust you on it. I wonder if they broke it up. What could it have brought if they sold if you sold 54 1-pound pieces, would you have been able to bring in more? Satisfy a whole bunch of people. That $5 million price was considerably larger than people expected, but a rare dinosaur skeleton stole the show. Somebody paid $30 million for that one. I'm picking up the wrong stuff on the beach. That's all I can say. Thanks for being here today. Thank you, Michael Piercy. Thanks to everybody who participated. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Till then, it's Michael Pelka reminding you, testudo, my friends. Testudo.